I've been editing full-time for close to 7 years now. I've worked with some of the biggest YouTube creators and made over $10,000 a month with video editing. But I've made a ton of mistakes, which is why I'll take all of those and share with you 7 pillars of how I would learn video editing if I had to start over from scratch. So the first point, or pillar 1, if you will, the first thing I would have done differently is probably to not spend as much time trying to get really good at video editing. Like the technical parts of it. I remember I was trying to watch like every single YouTube tutorial on how to make a video and know about every single feature and every animation and title creation possible, you name it. And the funny thing is, still to this day, I've not used like 70% of those learnings in the real world as an editor. So instead, what I would do now is just get good enough to be able to put a pretty decent video out, and then I would learn anything extra on the spot when needed. I mean, to be honest, this is kind of what I do most of the time anyways. For example, if you're editing a video and the client wants a 3D camera panning in on an AI generated image, then I would just YouTube this on how to create it and how to do it, and then find the exact video I need and just follow it step by step on the spot, instead of stressing about learning every single thing in the world before getting a client. There is, however, a couple really important fundamental techniques that you really do need to know in order to take your basic edits from beginner to truly a masterpiece, a jaw-dropping piece of work. And it isn't by learning these crazy 3D tracking or motion graphic or animations or anything like that. In fact, this is something I've learned from one of the editors who edits for Yes Theory and Johnny Harris's channel. This is also something I make sure I do in every single one of my videos, including this one. And if you want to check out what exactly I'm talking about, then you can go over this in depth in my school community, all about helping editors get their first client in 30 days or less. I'll actually leave a link below this video for you if you want to check it out. Anyways, pillar 2, or the next point, and this might sound very relatable to some of you out there, but for a while I tried getting work, but at the same time I also kind of avoided it too. Let me explain. So I would send out an outreach message to a potential client here and there, but the problem was, as actively as I was trying to get a client, which wasn't that active, I was equally avoiding it. Why was I doing this? You're probably wondering. Well, the same reason those of you who do this likely are. See, it really just stems from a lack of confidence, and at the end of the day, fear. You see, I had a fear of taking someone's money for a service that I had never charged for before, and that can be a really scary thing. And even though I was more than good enough to do so, I didn't feel like it. So what would I do if I started over today? Well, if I had no clients yet, the first thing I would do is I would dedicate 4 to 5 hours a day doing cold outreach to potential clients to land my first client, hopefully within a week's time. Then once I get at least one client on the hook and I still felt fear about trading money for my service, or I was uncertain about charging because I have never maybe done it before, then I would offer the first video completely for free to take away all risk to both myself and the client. But I would make sure, this is very important, that we agree that any future projects, assuming that they like this video that we're doing for free, are to be paid for in the future. It's almost like a free trial, if you will. Now, the next pillar, pillar 3, or the next thing that I would have done, I've noticed over the years that like literally 99% of editors view themselves as a low-income, commoditized, starving artist kind of person. I did fall victim to this for a while, I'll admit. I fell into a victimized mindset of it not being possible to make a lot of money with video editing, and instead it's kind of just like a passion that needs to drive me instead of money. And I couldn't have been further from the truth. See, it took a serious burnout and me temporarily quitting as an editor for me to find the solution to this problem. Now, having experienced this, if I were to start again from scratch today, I would treat video editing as an actual business, because at the end of the day, we trade services for money. We're a business. I would learn everything I could about running a business, creating offers, marketing, sales, you name it. I would deep dive into experts in each of these fields, and I would apply these learnings into my editing business. And that's exactly what I've done personally. And again, if you want to know how to do this yourself, then you could visit my school community. It's the first link in the description below. But if you don't want to do that, I highly recommend the following list of amazing book recommendations that helped me a ton, and I know they could help you too if you listen to them and apply them in your own business. Now, the books I highly recommend are $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozi, followed up by $100 Million Leads by Alex Hormozi, followed by Atomic Habits by James Clear, and then finally Gap Selling by Keenan. These 4 books will absolutely set you up on your way to become a successful editing business. Okay, pillar 4, or the 4th point, something I did when I was starting out was I would go whole weeks literally without editing anything because I just didn't have any clients. I thought my rookie mindset that I should only be editing or creating if I'm getting paid to do so. And this is just one, embarrassing to say, but also egotistical and ridiculous. If I were starting over, as I said earlier, the first thing I would do is spend the first 4 to 5 hours of each working day doing outreach to actively get clients. But with the rest of the time I have in the day, I wouldn't just sit on my hands and do nothing. I would be actively creating and experimenting with my own content. In fact, a great way to do this would be to start your own YouTube channel. It could build a personal brand, end up turning into a business, and you're also practicing the craft that you're trying to get paid for. It could even be something like a faceless documentary type of YouTube channel, as these kind of help you improve very quickly because, well, why? Because for these channels, you need to be really good at storytelling, or at least practice to get to that point, and they require a lot of editing. So it's kind of the perfect channel to start. Now, I would also be consuming and be very, very careful with this. I would set a maximum of 1 hour a day and just consume. I wouldn't be mindlessly consuming TikTok or anything like that. It has to be a methodical kind of consumption that can allow me, or you in this case, to better your business skills or to better your editing skills. So an example of this could be watching 1 to 2 episodes of something like the editing podcast. That's a great way to consume content and learn more about your craft and industry that you're in. Okay, pillar 5, the 5th point. Now, it can be very typical that a lot of editors get really out of shape. I'm generalizing here. Gain weight, become overall just very unhealthy. Now, this is because there's a stereotype. It's a stereotype for a reason, and that's that video editors just lock yourself in a dark room. They eat and drink all day, and they stay basically seated all day and do nothing else. But I'll tell you right now, nothing will make you a worse editor faster than doing this. And take it from me, I know, because I did it for 2 years straight. I got fat. My mental clarity was horrible. It went to trash. And it also affected me creatively. I started not only disliking myself, but also I began to hate editing for being the reason that I ended up in this mess in the first place. Luckily, I changed things. Now, what I would do if I started over from scratch is I would focus on taking my health better sooner. I would do what I do now, which is I always edit with windows or some sort of sunlight coming in to ensure I'm not blacking out the room and making things feel super depressing. I'm getting some good light in. I highly recommend using something like a sit-stand desk. However, if you don't have one or you can't afford it, then simply just get up for a short walk or just stand for a few minutes every 30 to 40 minutes. Or even better, go for a walk outside to get some fresh air for 10 minutes every hour or so. My favorite thing to do is actually to work out, to run, and to walk, and kind of balance all of those in my day. So 5 days a week, what I'm doing is strength training. I do long runs 4 days a week since I'm training for a marathon. And then I go for at least 1 30-minute walk a day just to get some sunlight out. Maybe that's with my dogs or whatever. And I know it might sound like a lot, and if that sounds like a lot to you, then just start with the walks. Maybe some strength training at least 1 to 2 days a week, because those have some great benefits. Now, the final point on this, eat healthier. I know junk food is so much easier to eat, but the clarity and energy that you get when you eat good food's outstanding. It actually is mind-blowing. Not to mention, getting a good physical physique and good mental health is kind of a given when you eat good and work out correctly. Okay, so next is pillar 6, the final pillar. And as video editors, 100% of our job is online, right? On a laptop, which means we have the web at our fingertips, which is not always a good thing. This can lead to hours and hours of mindless procrastination and consumption. So you need to be a very self-disciplined person. When I didn't want to do a project, or I was avoiding an edit or avoiding to get started, I would watch a movie or hours and hours of YouTube content and then run the clock out and then have to pull an all-nighter to get that project done, which also was not healthy for my marriage. It was unhealthy and terrible for my health, my mental health, and my relationships. So if I was starting from scratch, the first thing I would do is begin to set clear guidelines on my work. I'd use something called the Pomodoro technique to help me get started during those times where I wanted to just avoid the work and procrastinate. By the way, a Pomodoro technique is simply just setting a timer for 30 minutes and then forcing yourself to do what you're avoiding only for those 30 minutes. Then you could let yourself stop. But most of the time, I kind of get into a flow within that 30 minutes and I just keep the clock going and keep working. I would also have a hard cutoff time for my work every day, maybe around 6, 7 p.m. to be able to spend either bettering yourself if you're single, or if you're a family man like me with kids and a wife, then use that time to build your relationships with them. It's this balance that allows you to approach your editing work and your business with fresh eyes, a healthier perspective, and an overall balanced view. Honestly, when planning this video, those were the 6 most important and intrusive thoughts or points that came into my mind if I had to start all over again from scratch, and things that I wish I could tell my younger self when getting into this industry. So I hope this broke some of your limiting beliefs and helped open your eyes to some new approaches to go about your editing and your business. And listen, I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of this below. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you try any of these out and how it works for you. And remember, I'm rooting for you.